What's up? I'm back doing another figure review, or in this case, figures plural, sort of. It's really mostly a review of this guy right here, but it's a bit of a comparative review of the Juggernaut wave Brown Costume Wolverine and the Tiger Stripe Wolverine, but this is the 3-pack version, not the single card release from the Apocalypse wave. Because this is the version I picked up, and to be honest, I think I prefer this version. It has better accessories, and overall, this version has a few things that it does better than the initial release, even though they're almost the same figure. There's a few things this one does better, other than the accessories as well, but we'll get into that. But there's really just a comparison of these two figures, and where what each of them does right, and where this version improves upon the brown costume version that we got before. So, without further ado, let's dive into some comparison, and then we'll reach a verdict on which one is better, even though that will become pretty apparent pretty quickly. So obviously, in regards to the costumes themselves, it's going to be a purely subjective thing on whether you prefer the brown costume or the Tiger Stripe X-Men costume. But one thing that's already very apparent right out the gate is the improved proportions, or the overall anatomy on the new Tiger Stripe release over this one. Even though these figures do share a lot of the same parts, there's just these subtle differences that really make this version just look a lot better overall. From just a big issue a lot of people had with this Brown Costume Wolverine release was how high the head sat up on the neck, and it made this really weird, it just looks weird, kind of like this weird sort of bobblehead sort of thing, where his head just sits up way too high on the neck. It just doesn't really look natural. And then the shoulders as well, the arms, the shoulders kind of pop out in an unnatural way, and the overall anatomy of the arm itself just doesn't look the most natural, I want to say. It's just not the best overall, though it does help with posing, to be fair. But yeah, as far as the legs and the torso, they're pretty much the same, but either they retooled the traps a little bit, or they just found a way to put the head lower on the neck. But this one just automatically, you can tell it just looks better and more natural, and just they managed to get that head sitting on the neck where it should be. And he has less of those bulbous shoulders. The shoulder pads do help hide some stuff, but also the arms are different on these two, and these arms look much more naturalistic, and they look more like regular arms, and we get arm hair on this one, so that's always a plus for a Wolverine figure, and the musculature looks much more natural, and overall just the slight differences in this one just make it look much better and much more accurate to Wolverine in general, just make it look aesthetically all around better, even though there's a lot of the same parts. It's just a little tweaks, like changing the arms and getting the head to sit lower on the neck, and to all around to make it look more natural. So that's just in regards to the proportions of the figure. The claws, the color on the claws is pretty similar. It's hard to tell with this camera, but actually these ones are a little bit lighter. They almost look, they're very, very, almost white, but there's this silvery metallic sheen to them. But they're a little too light, in my opinion. These ones are a little bit better too. Actually, I might just be biased. They might be the exact same, honestly. Obviously, there's some warpage going on. That's fixable. I fixed it before. They just kind of do that on their own sometimes. You can fix it to just make it match like this side here. And there's just less paint issues on this one. There's a little bit of splotching on the back of the arm of this guy, which I will show you really quick. Which arm is it? Oh, it's this one right here. This arm right there, where you can see the on the glove, some of the blue got onto the actually that might be black. I don't know how that got there, but it got onto the forearm there, which if I get an X-Acto knife I can probably fix that. But the paint job is much cleaner on this version, whereas this one, the head sculpt's got some issues, and then the ab area, there's some scuffing right there. That was not for me, I swear, that the figure came like that. I believe this was the only one in stock when I bought it, so I kind of had to deal with it. Obviously this one just has the regular red belt and the regular belt buckle, and this one's got the X-Men one. Like I said, the costume is purely subjective on which one you prefer there. But in overall anatomy, the Tiger Stripe definitely wins this battle, for sure. As far as accessories go, the Tiger Stripe wins again, though this is a little bit unfair because this is the 3-pack release, which actually comes with more accessories than the single card. I believe the single card has the exact same accessories as this guy, which is just a pair of regular fisted hands without the claws there, which, I mean, it's a little bit unnecessary because these claws do come out. You can pop them out, but I guess some people might be irritated about the little holes in the knuckles if you pop those claws out. But yeah, I believe both these originally just came with a pair of fist hands, but which is weird because you would think in a figure that came with a pack with other figures, you think it would have less accessories, but this version actually has more. It's got a set of bone claws. It's got more battle damaged, angry Wolverine head sculpt. I mean, this one's pretty angry too, but more battle damaged, kind of torn up cowl a little bit, and then a Logan head sculpt. And that's another area where this figure wins. It comes with a cowl too, which is cool for the unmasked head sculpt. Is that the head sculpt, even just the standard head sculpt, is just miles better than this one. I mean, look at that. That is Wolverine. That is awesome. It's got this grimace and just all around. And what really helps this figure is it's basically a scaled down version of the 12-inch figure, so they just took that. I believe they took the head sculpt from that and just scaled it down, so they still have all this great detail here, and it's just overall a much better head sculpt. This one's much more just kind of bland and generic, kind of stern face, which, I mean, it'd be cool if we got one that was kind of stern face, but I like this expression for Wolverine. It suits him perfectly, so I don't really mind that at all. I think this is just a perfect Wolverine head sculpt here, and the addition of the other heads is great as well. I probably won't use them, though. If I ever get a second version, I would probably display the Logan head because it's pretty good, and I like the fact that they have the cowl that goes back that you can display with that head. And as far as the bone claws, they look great. They look great. The only issue is they're a little unnecessary. I know this is the second time I've said that, but they might be unnecessary because I can't really name a time in the comics where Wolverine with this outfit, with this X-Men outfit, ever had the bone claws. I mean, I might be wrong. I'm sure someone in the comments would correct me on that if I am wrong, but I just don't believe he ever had the bone claws with this outfit. I don't know, unless like maybe after Magneto stripped his adamantium skeleton, maybe that would be the only time I could think maybe he might have had the bone claws with this costume. But it's just, they're a great accessory nonetheless. In fact, it might even be more likely for him to have the bone claws with this outfit, because this is a older outfit, or further back in the timeline, I guess. But you can't really swap swap the hands, because these are blue and those are obviously brown. But still, though, the accessories, this guy definitely wins out. It's time to get into one area where this guy might actually have the edge, probably the only area, and that is the articulation, so let's get into that. And I know what you're thinking, these guys have the exact same body mold, wouldn't they have the exact same articulation? And the answer is yes, for the most part. But, because Okay, we'll just go over with this, guys, and then we'll discuss how they differ slightly with the articulation. So we'll just set this guy down so we got more room here for me to reach around the camera. So obviously the head goes up, way down, and of course this is an area of variance. So now we'll just go over this guy's first. Full 360. He's got a little bit of neck pivot, and and the arms rotate full 360. They go in and out. Really solid mobile butterfly joint here, which is pretty essential for a Wolverine figure because you want to get him in all these like savage poses where he's like jumping with the claws and stuff. The armpit joint's probably one of the more important joints for a Wolverine figure, and that is one issue I have with the Tiger Stripe, which we'll get into. So yeah, good armpit joints, double jointed elbows, bicep swivel, wrist rotate, 360, and they hinge back and forth like that. They both have the same hinge, same with the Tiger Stripe, just a forward and back, not a roll of the dice motion, which isn't super necessary for Wolverine anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. Good ab crunch, forward and back, pretty much the same on both figures, though the Tiger Stripe might actually go back a little more. He's got a waist twist, legs kick forward very well. They go back just a tad, out, not the most, but you really want Wolverine doing the splits. Upper thigh cut here, double jointed knees, good range, and he's actually got, which is cool because in the past Hasbro wouldn't have done this, he's got a boot rotation up here, which is great because it's totally hidden because he's got these big boots, which they both have. The only difference is the color, obviously, so it's very well hidden. He's got these ankles move down good. They move up just a little bit, not much. And he's got that awesome ankle rocker. So now let's go over the areas of difference with the Tiger Stripe. Though, because on paper, yes, they have the same articulation, but it's really the range of motion that's different on this guy. There's one of a few issues with the figure. It might just be because I got it recently and it's still kind of stiff a little bit, but the issue is this guy does have the butterfly joints, but they don't have anywhere near as much range as the Brown Costume butterfly joints. It's enough, I think, to get some decent Wolverine poses, though I would have liked a little more range. And also, like, the new arm sculpt might have something to do with that as well. And the shoulder pads might factor in too. But yeah, just not as much range in the shoulders. Which I guess it's a trade-off they might have had to make in order to fix the weird-looking shoulders on the Brown costume. Because like I said, aesthetically, this figure is far superior. Let's see, ab crunch, maybe even forward might even be better. Back, I was wrong, back's the same. Not too much back, which is a little unfortunate, but... And as far as I was also mentioning the head articulation, oop, there goes his head. That's what happens when you got a head that swaps out. It looks up good, down very far, more than you would even need. And he doesn't have the neck pivot that the other one has, but that's another trade-off thing where, because his head's sitting much lower on the neck like it should be, you don't really get that expressive sort of neck pivot that the other one has. But I would rather have this look right than just get a little bit of neck pivot. And it's not even like a huge deal, not even a ton. But yeah, as far as everything else, it's pretty much exactly the same. The feet might even kick farther forward on this version. But yeah, other than those few things, then their articulation is pretty much the same. But slight edge does go to Brown Costume because he has a bit larger of a range of motion with the head and the armpit butterfly joints. But like I said, it's sort of a trade-off because this one, the shoulders look much better, but you don't get that same range with the shoulders as you have with the Brown Costume. So we'll move on to the next subject here. So we kind of touched on the sculpt work already on these guys. They're pretty much they're similar with the body molds, but like I said, come on. There we go. But like I said, the arms and where the head sits on the neck is much better on this version, and the paint's cleaner. I've already mentioned all this stuff. The shoulder pads are really cool too. I like the shiny metallic blue they went with for them. And I just like the choice of the yellow and blue. And this yellow is a bit lighter than the initial release, which I think is actually more comic accurate, though. I've seen people prefer the darker yellow, but I prefer the lighter yellow. Because maybe it's because I'm on an X-Men, the animated series kick right now. Got nothing to do, just binging that on Disney Plus, and he has the lighter yellow and that. So it sort of matches that as well. But yeah, just the arms. We'll just highlight the areas where there is a bit of a difference. It's just the arms here. Well, first, we already mentioned the head sculpt. The head sculpt's great. He's got that grimace with the teeth and everything. He's got kind of a more shiny metallic kind of pearl white to the eyes, which is always good. I prefer that, honestly, to just a flat white. And the arms. This is another area of difference. I believe the initial release did not have... it had the sculpted arm hair, but I believe there's a little bit of shading here. You can kind of see the difference between where the arm hair starts and where it's not as apparent. There's a little bit of shading, I believe, in the arm hair of this one, which just adds to it. I mean, come on, you got painted arm hair, man. What more could you ask for a Wolverine? But, yeah, overall, aesthetic sculpt, paint cleanness, at least. Paint jobs, like I said, subjective, but that paint job is much cleaner on this Tiger Stripe version. Though that could just be a release thing. For all I know, Hasbro could have fucked up both of them, and I just got lucky with this one and got unlucky with this one. I mean, honestly, with QC issues, it varies very on a figure-to-figure basis quite a bit. But so overall, I'm just going to go with the overall verdict here. Tiger Stripe. If you're going to pick one Marvel Legends Wolverine figure to go with, these are probably the two best ones. Or I'm wrong, actually. The two best ones are probably the two versions of this one. But as far as two separate figures, probably these two are probably the best Wolverines that have been released so far. Because a lot of the other older ones, yes, there's that nostalgia factor with Toy Biz and all that sort of stuff, but just with the proportions and the sculpt and just the wonky anatomy, these are probably the best ones, and this is probably the best Marvel Legends Wolverine, in my opinion, that there is. So if you're gonna get one, go with this guy, whether it's the 3-pack release or the single card, it doesn't really matter. They're both really solid figures. They have the perfect Wolverine build. The head sculpt is amazing. This one does come with some alternate heads and some better accessories than the initial release, and also it's a bit of a lighter yellow. But other than that, they're pretty much the same, and he's got the shaded arm hair. So those are several of the reasons I prefer this one. He's got the shading with the arm hair and better accessories overall. So I'd say this is probably, in my opinion, the best Marvel Legends Wolverine, but you really can't go wrong with either of them. And this guy, if you're a diehard for the Brown Costume, you can get this guy, and he's still a solid figure, especially when you pose him. That neck issue isn't as apparent. Same with the shoulders. When he's all posed up, it's not as big of an issue. But standing statically, you can tell that this guy just it looks better. He's got that stockier, just overall more natural sort of Wolverine build, and more natural human, short, stocky human build than this guy, which looks a little more action figure-y, in my opinion. So, Yes, I'm gonna get some quick size comparisons out of the way, and then I will leave you guys. So we got a standard Marvel Legend behind him, which is the X-Force Deadpool. He doesn't have his other katana. Another figure is borrowing it right now because this guy's not on display, um, which he fits well. It works, and so they're definitely in scale with the other Marvel Legends. Proper short Wolverine height. These guys are pretty much the same height, though this one might be a tad shorter because, like I said, they fixed the neck issue. Um, other than that, they're pretty much the same height, so they both work perfectly in scale with your other Marvel Legends. And they are compared to a 7-inch scale figure, which is this NECA Ultimate Michael Myers. So I wouldn't display him with your NECA figures if you want to do that for whatever reason, because Wolverine will just look like a small toddler or a small child compared to them. Um, he literally is like at his waist or maybe his sternum. So yeah, I wouldn't display him with those guys. But as far as Marvel Legends, they're in perfect scale, which should be expected because they are Marvel Legends figures. So yeah. Like I said, these are both solid figures, but if you have to pick one Marvel Legends Wolverine, I would go with the Tiger Stripe version. It's all around just solid, better proportions, better head sculpt, better accessories, or same accessories if you're getting the single card version. But yeah, overall, I would just get this one. If you were to get one Wolverine figure, this is the ultimate one in the 6-inch scale, unless there's like, I mean, there's probably like a freaking Mezco one that's probably better, but as far as Marvel Legends go, this is the best one, in my opinion. So without any further blabbering, I will leave you guys to your day. So have a good one, guys, and keep the collecting going. Am I seriously trying to make up a catchphrase? Man.